there. I'm Kimberly Hayes-Day-Movin.
And I'm Amanda Day.
And you're listening to Fundraising Heyday, people.
Where we cover the how-tos of grants and fundraising.
And how we can all do a better job of changing the world through philanthropy.
Thank you so much for joining us today, whether it's your first time with us or your 141st time with us. We have been coming to you with the Fundraising Heyday podcast since 2018, and we are thrilled to roll out some new opportunities to grow that community.
So we are excited to announce that Fundraising Heyday now has its own Patreon page. Yes, like a big girl podcast, we are there and we are not afraid. So, so if you're not familiar, Patreon is a platform where a lot of creators, including podcasters, go to create communities for the people that listen to their podcasts or other creative activities. Mm-hmm. And it's a safe space. There's it's established, and then so it allows us to offer, you can sign up for free, but then it also allows us to offer memberships. And that's really an important thing for us because Amanda and I have always covered our production costs by our wonderful sponsors, right? So because when you've worked in grant writing and fundraising for as long as we have, you know how to ask for money in that way to support it. So we've always gotten those covered, but we've never paid ourselves to do the research, to find really wonderful guests like the one that you're getting ready to hear from, to write the scripts, to do the recording and the post-production and work with experts in that area and all those things. So we've never paid ourselves. And I feel like, I know that what we're doing is important. It's, and we feel passionately about keeping the podcast free and available to anyone who has access to Wi-Fi or an internet connection, right? You can find us, you can come to our website. But if this is something that you might be interested in supporting our work or showing appreciation, we have a membership level that starts at $5 a month. And at the risk of sounding like a fundraiser for your local NPR station or about the cost of a cup of coffee, I mean, if you got it, I don't know.
Like I should be singing some Sarah McLachlan in the background.
In the arms of an angel. No, I shouldn't make fun. Listen, she raised a lot of money for a great cause.
She absolutely did.
But we would love for you to join us if that is something you're able and interested in doing. So we've got a $5 membership level now, and we're going to roll out some other things with other benefits like book discussions, Amanda's playlist. There might be a monthly me ranting kind of musing thing. So, approach with caution. But there are lots of cool things that we're doing and we'd like to bring you along. And we appreciate you considering supporting something that you apparently love listening to after all these years.
Absolutely. And even if you just mosey on over there and sign up for free, then anything we put on there that's free, you will get access to. You can also see what you're missing, and it may make you think, well, actually, I would like to participate in that. So,
and it's
you want to give the website?
Yep. I should have done that earlier, but I'll do it now. So it's Patreon. So it's like patron, but with an E. patreon.com/fundraising heyday. That is how you can find it.
Absolutely. So on today's podcast, we are going to dive into some faith-based discussions, some growing our business discussions with a very special guest. So we hope you'll stay tuned after this break from our current lovely sponsor, which is SNF Writing Solutions. So we will be back with you shortly.
So we are absolutely thrilled that SNF Writing Solutions is our podcast sponsor for the second half of 2024, season 7, if you can believe it. Founder and CEO Stacy Fitzsimmons, a self-proclaimed data geek, is a seasoned grant pro who's raised and managed hundreds of millions of dollars She's a certified compression planner, and she has broad management experience across a lot of different industries like restaurants, retail, technology, healthcare, nonprofits, the arts, and state government. She is sharing her decades of experience bit by bit with us, so take a listen. So, Stacy, what makes a grant reviewer friendly?
Something that I can read at midnight when I've already been consultant, mom, wife, dog mom, and I finally have a minute to do this other stuff that I signed up to do. And I think some of the things that make that the easiest is by using headings that actually follow the review criteria from start to finish. If I can find where you think you answered the question easily, I'm happier than if it becomes a word search to see if you actually answered the question. Sometimes I am actually still a tactile reader. I will print out the application, so it's not as easy as doing a Control F to find certain words or whatever. So I think the biggest thing is making it absolutely abundantly clear where you're answering those questions. And use pictures. If something can be used as an image or graphic, anything like that, break up your text for me. Because we all like picture books and we do need the words, but if you can show me something instead of telling me something, I think that makes it a lot more powerful as well.
To find out more about Stacy Fitzsimmons and her incredible team at SNF Writing Solutions, visit snfwritingsolutions.com. If you want the tools and resources to up your organization's grant game, check out their services provided page and reach out to them today. So we're thrilled to have Dr. Janelle Harvey joining us today. She is the founder and president of Harvey NPO Consultant. She is a former executive director, retired professor of marketing, and a seasoned fundraiser professional who has spoken at Harvard and Fordham universities. She has a passion for nonprofits and ensuring that they have the resources they need to survive. She's traveled throughout all 50 states, which I'm jealous. I've only hit 47 so far, to facilitate fundraising workshops. And she has established several nonprofits on behalf of leaders. And Dr. Harvey recently graduated from the Milestone Circles program at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, which I know we're going to be talking about later. And she hosts the Faith and Fundraising podcast. So without further ado, welcome, Janelle.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies.
We're so glad to have you on with us.
So you've just continued in our long tradition of inviting people on our podcast that make us want to take naps because they are so busy and do so many things. So we're both super honored that you're here. And one thing that we always do with our guests, no matter who they are or where they're from, is we always want to know their grant's origin story. Just like all superheroes have their origin story, we would love to know what drew you into grants and then to all the other points beyond. But since most of us don't grow up as little girls and boys, just the little people wanting to be grant writers, that's usually not how it works.
Absolutely. So I actually, I would say it was by chance. When I graduated from college, even going further back, I graduated from Stevens College. It's an all-females institution in Columbia, Missouri, and I loved it so much. And my goal was to be an admissions counselor. Actually, they offered me a position, but I didn't want to stay back. I wanted to come home and be with my family. And there was an opening with an organization called Communities in Schools, which I know you're familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
And they were just grassroots. They didn't have their tax exemption status. And they hired me. I didn't have any experience. The only fundraiser I had done was there was a Turkish relief effort at my school, and I had cans and we raised money for those individuals that were impacted by the hurricane. So there was a woman named Arlene Peterson. She was over like I forget her title, but she was responsible for establishing CISs throughout the Midwest, and they hired me. I was only like 22 years old, fresh out of college. Again, I didn't know anything, but Arlene took me on as like her little sister. I learned how to file Form 1023, how to establish the Articles of Incorporation. I learned how to write a federal grant. I learned how to write corporate grants. By year 2, we had received our first federal grant. It was 1.88 million with the Department of Ed. So she taught me how to establish memorandums of understanding. So beyond my mom paying all that money for tuition, I got a lot of my education for free when I got that job. Because again, I didn't even know grant writing existed, but they took a chance with me and I was successful.
Wow. That sounds like an incredible learning experience. And clearly they saw what at the time was your potential and knew that you could just take it on and run with it. That's amazing.
Well, and how lovely to have a mentor to kind of show you the ropes as you went. It's like that would have been really nice.
Yes, we're still connected today. She came to my baby shower. She's like a big
Aw,
sister. So yeah, every time I talk about fundraising and things I've done, I always mention her because she brought me
Nice.
into the fold, so to speak.
I love that. That's
Yep.
cool. So, well, fundraising and particularly grant writing for faith-based agencies and churches and related organizations can present certainly challenges, advantages, disadvantages, especially when trying to identify your grant makers and funders. So, what would you say are some of the major differences between faith-based work and non-faith-based nonprofit work, especially when it comes to grant funding? And are these things that you cover on your podcast?
Yes, I think that individuals who are looking for funding for faith-based are driven by their spirituality, of course. So when they are applying for funds, unfortunately, when it comes to federal funds, they have to lay certain guidelines and regulations that they abide by aside because federal funds won't allow you to pray or to witness. So they have to be very particular when they're applying for funding. So I think the biggest difference between the two is the fact that if you are a faith-based individual, certain funding won't allow you to align all your programming with faith. You have to put it aside based on the money you bring in. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
I work with an agency that they have a spirituality component and and so I had to lay that out for them. I'm like, if we go for this grant, and even as far back as when I worked with the food bank, we would there were many faith-based soup kitchens and food pantries and other things. And so when we were sort of aligning and getting funding, it's like, we can't, to get this money, this corporate funding, you can't have a prayer service and then serve a meal. Everything needs to just be sort of separate. And it is kind of a weird thing to have to explain. But yeah, Amanda, I'm sorry. I think I interrupted you when you're
Oh
going
no,
to say.
you're fine. Well, and for the longest time, like especially when I first started training and I'd have someone in my class that worked for a faith-based organization, I always felt bad because I'm like, they had to write a grant, but like when they come with me with questions about specific funders, when you don't work in that world, I couldn't, I didn't know what to tell them. All I could tell them was like, hey, here's a few grant consultants I know that specifically work in this field. I'm sure they would be happy to answer a few questions and pass them on that way. But since then, I worked for a consulting firm that most of our clients were faith-based. And so certainly for a couple of years, spent a lot of time doing research specifically for faith-based organizations. And I was pleasantly surprised that there are foundations out there who prefer to give to faith-based organizations. And sometimes it's Christianity in general, sometimes it may be only more focused on the Catholic faith or more focused on Baptist or whatever, depending on the funders and obviously whatever their faith is typically how they like to give, right? So I was pleasantly surprised with how much funding there actually is available. I mean, it's certainly not every grant. And like you said, Kimberly, there are some that will fund faith organizations, but you've got to make sure you kind of keep that separation of that sort of thing.
Here in Northwest Indiana, there's the Center for Congregations, and that's what they do. They fund a lot of Christian churches, but not primarily Christian churches, but a bulk of their funding in our area goes to Christian churches.
Nice. That's an
Mhm.
excellent resource.
Mhm.
Could you share a little bit about the Faith and Fundraising podcast and what you do there? And we love a good podcast. So
Yes, we do.
Absolutely. So the station is called Kingdom Purpose Radio. You can listen 24 hours a day, kingdompurposeradio.com. I'm on for an hour on Thursday nights. So my husband is a minister. He comes on and he brings the word of God, and I talk for 30 minutes about fundraising for faith-based organizations. And we're a pretty cool pair. So I try to stick to my 30 minutes and not go over. Sometimes I do. And he always brings it in and aligns his message with whatever I spoke about. So, for example, I spoke about the importance of giving, like individuals giving, and he came in and talked about tithing. So we just showed I guess, the similarities between the two.
you're aligning. I love that. I love that.
Well, that's very cool. We'll add a link to the show notes to make it easy for folks
Yeah.
to find.
Okay.
Okay.
Do
That's
you so it's live? Do people call in or send or text or email, or are you like podcasting like we do right now where we're talking and recording?
So my version is similar to this, but there are other announcers where you can you're actually live. There is an app. If you download it when you're listening, and if you type on the app, I won't be able to see it while I'm on my show, but I can go and see it later on. So we can
Oh, that's
interact that way.
cool.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to switch gears with the next question, and it has a really bad pun. I guess I'm entering my bad dad joke phase of my life.
Okay.
It seems to be, I'm obsessed with weather, and I recently downloaded a bird watching app. So just, if you're listening,
Where
just
we are.
make your judgments. I'm just letting you know that's what's happening. That's what's happening. So you've forged a great partnership with US Steel. Ha 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 ha.
I love it.
To help employees form and sustain nonprofits. How did that come about, and how is it going? It's what I've read so far online. It was absolutely fascinating.
Yes, so US Steel has professional development. It's limited to the mill workers and their spouses. And because my husband works there, we get the magazine every month. So I told him I was going to take a stab at responding to their RFP, and the location in Portage, Indiana accepted mine. So I've been working with them for about a year and a half. I just pitched to the Gary location, so hopefully next year I'll be able to go there too. So one of my students actually wanted to not just do the class, but she wanted to establish a nonprofit. So I showed her how to complete her articles of incorporation, Form 1023, and she is launching a domestic violence shelter.
Wow.
And in October, they're doing their first walkathon to help raise money for it. So,
Oh, that is great. So do most people take the class with the idea that they're like being called to do some sort of nonprofit service work, and they want to learn how it works? That's a
yes,
layperson?
most people, they're have a lot of people in ministry, so they just want to know the ins and out of fundraising. I have people who already have nonprofits, or their wife or husband may, and they just want to learn the fundamentals to make sure things are operating correctly. And this was the first student that actually launched a nonprofit. So I was excited.
Cool.
That
So
is so
is
cool.
is it a like 3 or 4 nights, or does it go over months? How does the class work?
It's 6 weeks, so we meet monthly, and then after that 6 week, we start a new class. So
Nice.
they can sign up and come every Monday, or if they decide that their work schedule is too busy, they only come 3 days. And then we can just meet virtually or by phone to discuss what they missed.
I've just never, and I'm sure it's out there, and someone can email at hello@heyday services.com and tell me all about it. But I just haven't heard of a lot of companies. Professional development's everywhere, but it's usually like some awful team building exercise that I can't stand, and I'm bitter. But to offer that, to encourage employees to give back to the community in ways that feel right for them, that just strikes me as really unusual.
Oh,
And
wow.
in a good way. In a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's amazing. Also, I think it says a lot about if you see opportunities as a consultant, or as a grant writer, as an employee, it's okay to say, yes, I'm interested in doing that and just take that chance. I
Right.
mean, it's a
This,
great example.
you're probably going to ask this already, but this summer, Indiana University, I received some of their mailings as well. So I pitched one of my courses that CFRE approved. So I taught that this summer as well. So like you said, there are all sorts of opportunities. You have Emory, Spelman, you're in Georgia, all sorts of opportunities out there.
There are
So
all sorts of things. Okay, going off topic, just a smidge. I read an interview with you where you had an Atlanta connection. I feel like you had an uncle or a cousin or someone in the Atlanta area.
for the magazine,
Yeah,
actually, someone submitted my name. I'm not sure who it was, and they reached out to do an interview.
that's so cool. But so do you still come to Atlanta on occasion, or is that
They, whoever the individual was that submitted my name, wanted me to be a part of that online platform so that I can get new clientele. So
nice?
that's how that came about. I honestly,
Hey,
Don't even know.
so just put those good vibes out there, and people are
Mhm.
just wanting to help you. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So, well, I promised we'd talk more about this later, and so now it's time. We would really love to hear more about your participation in the Milestone Circle of the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. Can you just tell us what is the program, what's its focus, its objective, and all that good stuff?
Yes, ma'am. So every year NASDAQ has an opportunity for women to come together. I think there may be 3 or 4 cohorts, so it won't run again until next year. And we meet every other week for about, we may have met for like 6 weeks. So there are women from all different professions. I met a lady who owns an organization, it's called the Boss Network. So she has connections with like L'Oreal and other hair care professionals, and they meet in Fort Lauderdale for this big event where women connect and I guess try to broaden their leadership and experiences and opportunities. So I actually found the opportunity online. I applied and it was accepted. And like I said, every other week you meet, they match you with mentors and other ladies who are like-minded. They have fundraising webinars that you can listen to, things on startups, entrepreneurship, the whole gamut. And at the end, you have a virtual graduation, and then your company is featured on a billboard at Times Square. So
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Like, what's the biggest, what was something that maybe surprised you the most? I mean, you seem like, you've gotten all these degrees and all this experience, but was there something unique to this kind of cohort experience that surprised you?
I think the way was so easy to connect to a few of the women. Like one lady, we may talk at 2 o'clock in the morning. She may have a question and it's just so easy, I guess, to connect. I'm a pretty laid back person anyway, but I think the connections were most powerful. And the abilities to just be open and share without feeling that you're competing with somebody, but having a willingness to share so that you can see, we call each other milestone sisters. You can see your sister go forth and shine too.
Right.
So
And
I loved it.
how many people were in your cohort? How many women?
Ooh, we
Approximately.
weren't always on at the same time. I'm going to say maybe 60.
Okay.
Maybe. One really good thing, and I would encourage anyone to be a part of it next year if they can, but one really good thing about it is you can apply for interns. So right now I have an intern from Lee University in New York City. So
Mhm.
he's helping me to develop federal contracts. And this individual will get credit. It's nothing that has to come out of your finances as an entrepreneur. So it gives him a valuable experience that he could put on his resume, and it also helps to showcase your business. So I'll have him until December 28th.
And they
Wow.
get college credit for,
They get college credit, yes. So you don't have to, it's a great experience and it's help for you.
yeah.
We'll make sure to put a link to it in our show notes and so to encourage. And
Okay.
it's all women.
It's all women, yes. Mhm.
Wow. Um were you I'm imagining it was mostly maybe more business as opposed to businesses focused on nonprofits, but did you meet other people who worked with nonprofits as well?
I did. The lady that I spoke about, that
Mhm.
I so easily adapted to, her organization is a nonprofit.
Oh,
So there were
okay.
women from all walks of life, doctors, bankers, all
Wow.
sorts of women. Yep.
Wow.
It's very neat.
Mhm.
So you graduated you're a Milestone sister.
Yes.
The only thing that would keep me from wanting to pursue something like that is I don't want anybody to contact me at 2 a.m, but I'm glad that y'all found each other. If someone contacts me at 2 a.m, there better be, blood involved, or they should probably just go to the ER first, actually. But
She probably saw that, like, if you can't sleep, you may go on Facebook. She may have
oh,
saw that green
I'm
light.
just messing.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
messing. Oh my
Oh,
God.
whatever. I know, unless it's 911, I don't contact Kimberly after 9 p.m. I know.
Yeah,
Oh,
I know my
yeah.
girl.
I get up early, so what can I say? But so you're a Milestone sister. It sounds like you're moving into federal contracts and the fun and glory that all that involves. What are some other things that you are seeing in the future for you and for your business? Anything you'd like to share? I can't wait to hear, because I know it's gonna be something that's fascinating.
I hope to expand because right now I'm a one-woman show. So I get a lot of business that I have to turn around or refer them to someone else. So my overarching goal is to eventually have enough revenue coming in where I can hire additional staff and be able to meet the needs of anyone who calls me. So that's my ultimate goal.
Very good.
Amazing.
Mhm.
Is it I feel like Amanda and I feel like we talked to so many, and it's mostly women, right, who are own consulting businesses, and there's that time, there's that moment where if particularly if they're providing grant writing services like direct services, there's that moment of I need to bring people on, and then there's another moment of is it subcontracting versus employee, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then I mean, we've heard feedback from some owners that as they grow, they write grants less and less, and they do more, managing and professional development. Is that
Mm-hmm.
kind of is that like a big picture thing for you, or are you just
My big picture, yeah, as you mentioned, is to do more training and maybe be able to train individuals and they can do the grants and I manage it. I think that would be rewarding. So I like writing, but it's cumbersome. And as you know, those federal grants can take ages to complete.
they won't write themselves? They will not write
Right.
themselves. I don't care how good your AI,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it just no. How good your little GPTs are, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to.
No, it's not.
Wow.
I want to go back to something we kind of talked about earlier, and I'm curious about, if you don't mind. I know
Okay.
you spent a lot of time teaching people how to start nonprofits and all of the steps and stuff involved. But do you spend much time talking to people about why they want to start a nonprofit? Because I think nonprofits are great, but sometimes I'm
Mhm.
like, is there already that service being provided? So is that part of some of the training you do too? Like, is a nonprofit necessary?
Yes. So the lady who I mentioned started the domestic violence shelter was a
Mhm.
victim of domestic violence herself, and she's not ashamed to say that she had endured that unnecessary event. So that was her passion for that. She doesn't want to see women to have to deal with that and to make sure that they have the needs, especially if they're a mother of young children and they're out there without finances. She wants to make sure nobody has to struggle. So most of the individuals that I work with, they do share their story with me. They don't want to just up and create a nonprofit because they feel it's free money, because I do talk about that too.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as free money. So yes, I do talk to them about their reasoning. I actually have a worksheet that they complete before I do any services, and I ask them their mission, their vision, and a couple other things so we can talk about it. So
Nice.
yeah.
So important.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 'Cause I think a lot of people don't realize, like, oh, let's just start a nonprofit. And you're like, it is Rewarding work, yes, but it's not just as simple as I'm just going to start a nonprofit.
Right.
Very true.
Yep.
Well, what is the best place if people want to reach out, if they have questions or want to learn more about your work? Where can people find you, Janelle?
Absolutely. On Facebook at Harvey NPO or LinkedIn, Dr. Janelle Harvey are the best places to find me.
Very good. And we'll include all those links as well. So if you've got questions about how to start your own nonprofit or how to get training from Janelle, reach out.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. I always say this, but I'm going to say it again. I've learned so much. Every time we have someone come on, I'm learning. I was down here taking notes, and I hope that I'm sure that our listeners will be doing the same. So thank you so much for sharing all the great work that you do. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. I admire you both. I've known Amanda since we were on GPA together on their board. So you're
Nice.
both phenomenal. Thank you.
Way back. Yes.
Way back.
Thanks again to today's sponsor, SNF Writing Solutions. If you want to learn more about all that Stacy and her team offer in terms of resources, coaching, grant writing, and more, visit snfwritingsolutions.com.
So we hope you enjoyed this conversation and mental stimulation with Dr. Janelle Harvey, because I learned a lot and I got some ideas, and I hope you did too. Everything from differences in faith-based fundraising, working with companies to provide professional development training around nonprofit, game changer, business building, and all the good things.
We're honored you chose to spend time with us today, and we hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about when you've got those small fundraising and development teams with big goals and dreams, and how to achieve it when you got all the work to do. So join us then.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.